Welcome anyone to my YouTube channel. This is Everett, aka Two Beasts to Kill You, aka the Beast with the Least. And man, are we really seeing this happen again? Another CEO or bigwig in the video game industry just be an absolute idiot. Man, just amazing. But before we get into this topic, this hilarious topic, if you like what I do here, like, subscribe, share, all that good jazz. Don't want to start cussing right away. But let's go ahead and get into the video. So Randy Pitchford recently was on Twitter talking about his excitement for Borderlands 4 coming out on the Switch 2. And then that's about the high point for him, I think, in this situation. A fan on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, replied to him basically saying, hey, let's not charge $80 for Borderlands 4, which, if you are unaware, Randy Pitchford was recently interviewed and saying that Borderlands 4 more or less is going to be charging $80. It was something to the effect of they're going to be following market trends. I don't remember the exact quote it was, but yeah. Now, granted, Randy Pitchford, his response is bad, but he might have been a little bit... I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe not benefit of the doubt, but I can understand where he's coming from with the way he was a little hostile in his response, because the response to his tweet about being excited for the Nintendo Switch 2 version of Borderlands 4, the Twitter user came off a little aggressive, saying, Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increase of the price tag. You are the CEO. You have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher. So, I understand where the Twitter user's coming from. Old Gold's OT. I don't know how you... Old Gold Sot. I understand. Nobody wants to pay $80 for games. It sucks. It looks like that's where the industry is going. And it sucks. But to come off as combative, at least for me, probably wasn't the right way. Maybe say something along the lines of like, hey, can you not charge $80? Not you. This game better not be $80. Still, as much as I can understand where Randy Pitchford's coming from. Maybe reply aggressively to that. Still, so this is Pitchford's response. A, not my call. B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. Right there, that's oof. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen. Now, I see why he says that, why he's saying what he's saying. He's saying not his call, which probably is true. I understand a lot of people are like, he's a CEO of Gearbox. But 2K is the publisher. 2K is going to make the call probably in the end of what the final price for Borderlands is going to be. Borderlands 4. Still, it sucks. That's neither here nor there, I think, with what he can and can't do. The other thing, the other part of his response saying, if you're a real fan, you'll make it happen, it's just a growing trend we're seeing of, these CEOs and these higher ups in the video game industry just, saying things to the consumer that you shouldn't be saying, whether you feel like it or not. We've seen it before, years ago in 2005, 2006, I don't remember the exact E3, when, PlayStation saying, go get a second job to get this PlayStation 3, or the good old, if you want an Xbox that's offline, we got one for you. It's called the Xbox 360. Things like that. Or even recently, Nintendo executives saying the same thing. Oh, we know some people want a cheaper console, so that's why we're going to keep making the Switch 1. Stuff like that. Or, well, the Switch, the original Switch Lite and all that stuff. And, I get that maybe there's some frustration, with executives and CEOs and higher-ups. They just want to sell these products. And they're humans, too. They're going to say stuff that, maybe at the time they're just thinking it and they want to say it and they know they shouldn't say it. They're still going to say it. And then later on they're like, oh, shit, I shouldn't have fucking said that. Still, they're faces of the companies. They shouldn't be saying this stuff. Not only that, the thing with Randy Pitchford saying, in 1991, I bought a game that was $80 and I made it work, and this and that. Here's the thing with him saying, over fucking 30 years ago, he bought a game that was $80. I've seen this argument a lot, with the whole games getting more expensive and consoles getting more expensive, and people saying, hey, we bought games that were $100 back in the 90s, games that were $80, games cost $60, blah, 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 blah. And if you account for inflation, you were actually spending more, and this and that. I saw someone saying like, spending $80 back then, or even $60 back then, is equivalent to nearly like $200 nowadays. Here's the thing with that. And anyone who disagrees with me or agrees with me is whatever, fine. Shut the fuck up with that argument that games cost this much or consoles cost this much back then. Back in the 90s, and I remember this. I grew up in the 90s. I'm a 90s child. I'm nearly 40 years old. I do remember this stuff. My father worked, at one point he did work 2 jobs, but there was 5 of us. There's 4 boys, 1 girl, and stuff. A lot of kids, a big family. So he had to work 2 jobs. But once he got a good job, he only had to work 1 job, and we still were able to get a home at some point, and he was able to provide for his family. This was growing up in the 90s and then early 2000s. Because back then, you could afford to live like that. There was let me find it. My buddy brought this up to me, or not this subject, but he said something to me that reminded me of things were cheaper back then. The cost of living was cheaper. When he was saying it was cheaper back then, you could spend more. This is his quote. You could spend more on treats like games. Now, not so much. That was his big takeaway. And he's right. Back then, when you were buying stuff, even me, when I started working in about 2004, 2005, when I just got out of high school, I was able to go and buy games, with making the minimum wage. Now I make a lot more than what I was making back then. I make more than minimum wage. I have a pretty good pay, or I make pretty good pay, and I have to work 6 days a week, and I'm not able to really buy games like that. Fuck me if I really want to buy a console. So, with the cost of living going up as high as it's gone, especially here in Southern California where I live, it's even worse. I know. If you don't like it, move out. It's not that simple. So, I don't want to hear that in the comments or as a reply. But the cost of living has gone up. So, just because prices of video games has remained static for so long, and now it's finally starting to go up, and you know, people are looking at that like, well, now things are starting to get a little bit more expensive in the gaming. I understand that it costs more to make video games, but also at the same time, probably doesn't need to cost that much to make video games. It's probably a lot of bloated budgets to hire people that maybe you don't need to hire. You could probably scale it back, because we've seen it. Games like Clair Obscur has a way smaller team than like Assassin's Creed, and Clair Obscur is a Game of the Year contender right now. You know, you see games like that look good and play well and are received well, and they don't have as big a budget as, say, a Doom: The Dark Ages or an Assassin's Creed Shadows or any of these AAA games. And so their teams are not as big as well. So to try and like any way to justify the raising of prices for consoles and games, like there's going to be an argument that smacks that down. I understand that obviously greed is always going to take over, and companies just want more money. If they just were like, you know what, hey, we just want more money, without saying it that way, I think I'd be more fine. But to try and justify like, oh, this and that, and this and that, right? You know, price of everything is going up, and it costs more to do this. You can find ways, but you know, especially here in, you know, the United States, you're never gonna. The greed of rich white men, well, just rich people in general, it's never gonna go away. So yeah, I know I went into a whole tangent about, you know, why Pitchford bringing up buying a game that was $80 30 years ago, that argument doesn't work. But, you know, I just want to get that off my chest along, you know, with talking about this. But yeah, I don't think there's much more to say about it. I think it's a very, very shitty thing of Randy Pitchford to do, to just go out. I mean, he's not. I mean, if you saw the way he was about the Minecraft movie, the way he tried to defend that, like, or not the Borderlands movie, Minecraft movie, the Borderlands movie, saying like, oh, this is a great movie, but things fucked it over, and this and that. Like, dude, it just was a bad movie. Just move on, accept it. Yeah, he's not. You know, I mean, if you know about his famous USB stick, you know he's just you know, he's a very out there guy and all that stuff. But you know, hey, yeah. All right, so I'll go ahead and call this video right there. Once again, you like what I do on this channel, like, subscribe, share, all that good shit. Until next time, I'll catch you later.